Please.
Hey, so good morning. Today's daf is Gittin daf Ayin Gimel. Ayin Hey, I should say. No, Samach Hey. Boy, that was 3 tries. Here we go. All right. Thankfully, you get 3 strikes. What?
It's gonna be a different story.
We're going to have interesting discussion today. We are beginning with a new Mishnah that is going to, today we're not beginning with a new Mishnah. Tomorrow we'll begin with a new Mishnah. So yesterday we concluded with the debate between Rav Yehuda and Shmuel. And Rav Yehuda said in the name of Rav Asi that once minors know the difference between stones and nuts, so then they can acquire things for themselves, right? And once they know how to borrow and return things, they can acquire things for others. Whereas Shmuel says it doesn't make a difference how old they are. If they're only a minor, they cannot acquire things for others. And we start today by challenging Rav Chisda's positions. So, and we're going to have a discussion. The primary discussion at the beginning of today is significantly about the ability of minors to perform transactions. So let's take a look. So we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines from the very bottom, second word from the end of the line on Samach Daled Amabet. Again, it's 6 lines up in the narrow lines of the Gemara. So Samach Daled Amabet, and we say, Masiv Rav Chinina Vardan. Rav Chinina from Vardan asked the following question: Ketzad Mishtatfin b'mavoi. How do we combine? How do we create a shituf in a mavoi where we're going to be allowed to carry in the mavoi? This is a form of eruv that we learned in Maseches Eruvin. So maniach as a chavis v'omer. So somebody will put down a barrel of wine and say the following: Harezo l'kol b'nei hamavoi. That this barrel of wine is going to belong to everybody, because we need to have a portion of food that is for everyone and is thereby going to allow everybody to be sort of like one big happy family. And so as a result, they could have wine or grape juice. And then the person has to formally give the wine or grape juice to the rest of the people who live in the neighborhood. And how does he do that? Al Yadei Beno Uvito Gedolim. Well, he could use his children who are adults, or he could use a Jewish male servant or female servant. Now the Gemara points out, and to close out the question. So what was the question? Again, this is a question on Shmuel, who says that minors are unable to make an acquisition for somebody else. And now we are going to ask on him and say, well, 1 second, doesn't this show that a minor can make an acquisition for somebody else? So Hai Shivcha Hekidami, this female Jewish servant, how old is she? If she is an adult who has brought the 2 hairs to indicate that her adultness, so then my baya gabe, what's she doing with the master? A female, so let's just review that a Jewish female servant goes free when she turns 12 and has adult qualities. On the other hand, a male Jewish servant serves for 6 years and goes free in the 7th year. And then a male Jewish servant has the ability to have his ear poked through, and if he does, and say that he wants to stay with his master, and they poke through with his ear, and then he will stay until Yovel. And so the point is that if she's already an adult, so then she's not going to be she's not going to be there with the master any longer. So Elalav, so it must be Deloas Yeshtei Sarot. She has not yet grown the pubic hairs, and so as a result, she's not yet a full adult. The Katani Zochel Acherim, and yet what did this Mishnah say that was located in Eruvin Daf Ayin Tet Amud Bet? It says that she's allowed to be Zocha for the other people in the Mavoi. So shiny Shitufei Mavos Derabanan. So we answer that actually Shitufei Mavos is only a rabbinic issue. And so as a result, that's why it's okay. Now, you may be wondering, and because I certainly was wondering this same thing, which is, I don't understand. How are we asking about the end of that Mishnah? Why don't we ask about the beginning of the Mishnah? Because what did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said, if in fact minors are able to convey, why do you have to use your own children who are adults? So that is effectively Tosos's question. So if you take a look at the second to last Tosos on the daf, on Samach Dal and Amabet, we can go, V'im Tomer, if you want to ask, my shna shivcha mi bino bito hakitanim de'ein mizaka al yadam. What's the difference between a shivcha where we're allowing the minor maidservant to do this, but we won't let the children? For Omer Rabbeinu Tam, so Rabbeinu Tam answers to Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar beparakama de bab mitzia gabi mitzia lo gadol mamish, that when we had when we had this rule that we'll see in Bava Metzia, where where we say an adult finds something, and that who does it belong to? According to Rabbi Yochanan, we're not talking about an actual adult. What we mean by adult, what gadol can also mean in the Talmud, is somebody who is ela gadol hasamuch al shulchano shel avivhu. Katan, I'm sorry, ela ela gadol hasamuch al shulchano shel aviv hu katan I'm saying hu katan. That the point is that somebody, whatever their age, if they are still living at home and relying on their father for income and for survival, so then they are considered a katan. And hu adin kan. And so too the rule is here. Aval shivcha b'schar turka ochelos. She is not reliant on the kindness of the master. She's working for her food. And so as a result, that is why this case is different. So as a result, when we say gadol here, that the children have to be a gadol, it means that they have to be non-reliant on their parent. And so because if they are reliant on their parent, then it's a problem. And then now Gemara, Tosfos then answers according to Shmuel. Shmuel the Amar Hasam Katan Mamish Umefaresh Taima Hasam B'Shah Shehu Motza Maritza Eitzel Aviv. So Tzarak Lomer de Mahai Taima L'Kol Davar Yado Ki Yad Aviv. Va'alchinam detak lomar. Oh no, that's it. So the point is that according to the understanding for Shmuel, the point who says over there in the Gemara that it's actually, when we say adult, we mean a true adult, and we say minor, we mean a true minor. The point is that if in fact the child brings everything to their father, so that's why a minor won't work over here. So as a result, that's the story. So yes, there is a difference between a minor child and the minor maidservant, because the maidservant is actually able to, is effectively getting paid and is not actually reliant on the kindness of the father. So she has the ability to make an acquisition for somebody else. Whereas a minor who's reliant, or even an adult who's reliant on the father, well, then that person is going to bring everything that they bring in to the father, because out of sort of respect and in exchange. And so as a result, they don't have the ability to make an acquisition for somebody else. So, okay, so that's Tosfos's clarification of what seems to be an apparent issue. So Amar Rav Chisda Ishtik Vardan. So this Rabbi Chanina ben from Verdania was silent in response. He did not respond, but Rav Chisda thinks that he could have responded. My Hava Leila Maimer, what could he have asked? Well, one second, we have a principle Kol de takun rabbanan, as we turn to Samach Hayam and Aleph, ke'ein do raisa takun. Everything that was established by the rabbis, they made it like it was for the like it would be if it would be biblical. And so as a result, just because the concept of shitufei mavos, the combination of mavos in order to be able to carry there, is something that's only rabbinic, they would establish acquisition ability just like a biblical acquisition ability. And so as a result, that suggests that that only those who can make an acquisition biblically would be allowed to. And so too here, we shouldn't allow. How come we're allowing this minor woman to make an acquisition for somebody else? And doesn't that fact indicate that Rav Chisda, that Shmuel is wrong, and Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Asi is right, that we do allow minors to make acquisitions for others. So the idach, and now so the Gemara explains. Well, no, you could say the following. Ki amrin and kol takun rabbanan be'en ke'ein doraisa takun. When do we say this principle that the rabbis make their decrees just like biblical law? So b'milsa de isla ikar min Torah. Well, that's only true with something that has an original basis in the Torah. Aval milsa de leisla ikar min Torah. But when it comes to something that doesn't have any some prohibition or some rule that doesn't have any corresponding rule in the Torah, lo. And you know what? It's actually true that the shitufei mavos doesn't really have any source in the Torah, because the prohibition to carry in the Torah is only between a public domain and a private domain. But within private domains, even among private domains, we don't have such a prohibition. And so as a result, there is no concept of combining public and private domains in the Torah. This whole concept of an Erev, which we talk about, is all effectively in order to address only a rabbinic prohibition in the first place. And so therefore, that's why they can make their own rule. Okay, so that was question number one. Now we're going to have another question against Rav Chisda and the interpretation of Shmuel. Another situation where it appears that a minor has the ability to make an acquisition for somebody else. And this is from a Mishnah in Meiser Sheni. So Masav Rav Avia, Ma'arimim al Meiser Sheni. We can do a trick with respect to Meiser Sheni. Now let's remind ourselves of the rules of Meiser Sheni. Meiser Sheni is the rule that a certain portion of your produce needs to be brought to Yerushalayim in years 1, 2, 4, and 5 of the Shemitah, of the 7-year Shemitah cycle. But sometimes you may have too much food to bring to Yerushalayim, and so you want to exchange that food for money. Now, if you sell that food to a third party in order to exchange it for money, effectively, we don't punish you for making that exchange, and whatever price you get, you get. But if you're going to make the substitution yourself, you have to add a 1/5 penalty effectively. And so as a result, if you were to sell it for 100, you'll have to put in another, actually 25, because we measure the penalty by how much it is of the end result. So 25 out of 125 is 1/5. So it's really a quarter that we make you pay. So in any event, the bottom line is that there's a way that this Mishnah in Meiser Sheni is telling us there's a way to trick this system. Ketzad, how? Omer Adam livno v'to agadom. You can tell your adult child, la'avdo v'shivchaso ha'ivrim, or to your Jewish maidservant, halachem maos halalu. Here's some money. Ufiduva hen Meiser Sheni zeh, and use this money to redeem my Meiser Sheni. And so essentially, what ends up happening is, at the end of the day, I own everything again, but it's now, instead of having $125 of Meiser Sheni money that I need to bring to Yerushalayim. I only have $100 of Meiser Sheni money. And now again, the Gemara asks the same question that we asked a few moments ago. Hi Shivcha, hey Chidami, how old is this Jewish servant, a Jewish female servant? Because Ida As Yeshtei Saros, my Bayagabe. Why is she still with her master? So Elalav, the low As Yeshtei Saros must be that she hasn't, and yet she's allowed to do this, which shows that she's allowed to make a kinyan on behalf of somebody else. So Hakav Mayaskinam, but Meiser Sheni Bisman Zed the Rabbanan. So we'll say that it's talking about Meiser Sheni that is only rabbinic. Well, 1 second, you're telling me that we're talking about rabbinic Meiser Sheni, which is what we have today after the Beis Hamikdash has been destroyed. But we have a rule that there are no maidservants today. V'hatanya ain't ebed every noheg ella bisman shahayovel noheg. We only have Jewish servants when we observe Yovel. And Yovel doesn't exist at this time. So as a result, we should not have any kind of Jewish servant. So elava atzitz she'enu nakov d'Rabbanan. So we'll create a different rabbinic situation with respect to Meiser Sheni, and that is if you grow produce in a pot that does not have a hole in the bottom, it is considered as if it was not grown in the actual ground. And as a result, since it's not grown in the actual ground, we will say that it is only obligated in Meiser Sheni rabbinically. And so as a result, that's why a minor can redeem such Meiser Sheni on behalf of others. Okay, so that therefore we've now eliminated these two questions, and we in fact have this machlokus that we've not been able to prove one way or the other, and we have the machlokus between Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Asi, who says that minors, that young minors can acquire things for themselves, and older minors can also acquire things for others. Whereas Shmuel, as explained by Rav Chisda, says no, both categories can only acquire for themselves and not for others. Okay, so now we're going to go through the different ages of development according to Rava. Amar Rava, shalosh midos bekatan. There are 3 times for a minor. Tzror v'zarko, egos v'notlo. A minor who knows the difference between a nut and a stone, so he throws away the stones and keeps all the nuts. That minor is able to keep things for himself, but he can't acquire for others. And when it comes to a girl who's that age, that is a minor that is already able to understand the concept of marriage, and therefore, if in fact her father has died, or her father married her off and she got divorced, she can still get remarried, even though it's not a biblical marriage. The rabbis will allow her to get married because we're worried about her welfare, and in such a marriage, when she becomes an adult, she has the ability to do what is known as miyun. And miyun is the concept that she can reject the marriage and literally just walk away when she becomes an adult. So that is the age. So what's the youngest age that she's able to have this kind of marriage? It's the age that she can tell the difference between a stone and a nut. She knows what to put in her mouth and what not to. But when you get a little older, when you're a poatos, and Rashi says here, tanan b'hanazikin demekkan umekach b'metaltalin parshinan kvar shis kvar tamne, that we're talking about somebody who's somewhere in the age of 6 to 8. Again, depending on their capacity, depending on their intelligence and their ability to make sense of things. Ukenegdan b'katana, and when it comes to a girl who's that age, what's the story with her with respect to marriage? Miskareshes b'kedushay aviha, she can be divorced from a marriage that her father entered into, meaning that because she can receive her own get, because she's old enough to recognize that divorce means that she is separating from her husband. Higila onas nedarim, when a minor reaches the age that they can actually fulfill oaths. So that is 1 year prior to their becoming a bar or bat mitzvah. So the age of 12 for boys and 11 for girls. So nidreya neder v'hektish. Well, not only are their vows valid, but they also, whatever they make hektish and consecrate for the Beis Hamikdash, that is also going to be consecrated. Ukenegdem b'kentana choletzes, and a girl who's that age can do chalitza. Okay. V'limkor b'nichsei aviv. Now Gemara adds, so that we had 3 different ages for Rava, and now we add a 4th age when it comes to selling an inheritance of one's father. Ad she'yehei ben esrim. At that, you have to wait until you're actually 20 to sell that. And the reason is because we don't want the orphans of an estate to undervalue the estate. And so we insist that they reach the age of 20 before they begin to sell off that estate. Okay, so that has been our little aside with respect to minors and their abilities to do transactions. So now we actually pick up with minors in connection with divorce, but we'll actually deal with a number of different rules with respect to establishing an agent to receive the divorce. So Katana Sha'amres Gabali Giti, so we pick up with the Mishnah now. We're again on Samachay Amud Aleph. We have if a girl who's a minor says to the agent, listen, I want you to accept my get for me, meaning I want my get to be effective as soon as it goes into your hand. Well, the problem is she's a minor. So Eino get Achiagia get liyada. It's not a valid get until it reaches her hand. Because lefikach imratza abal laksor liyaksor, and in fact, if the husband wants to retract before it gets to her hand, he can retract it. Why? She'ein katan osa shliach. A minor does not have the ability to appoint an agent. V'im amar lo avia. However, if the father says to the agent, say hiskaba leviti gita, go and accept my daughter's get. Well, the father does have the ability to receive the get on behalf of his minor daughter, and so as a result, imratza laksor lo yaksor. And so as a result, if the husband wants to retract, he's not able to retract. So those are the 2 cases with respect to minors. Now, ha'omer tain get zel ishti. Now we go to the husband's direction. If the husband says, give this get to my wife, b'makom ploni, in such a place, so unisana b'la b'makom acher pasul. If in fact he gives it to her in some other place, then it is not a valid contract, but not a valid get. She is not in fact divorced. Why? Rashi tells us, and we have a machlokas between Rashi and Tosas Rit. So Rashi on the right hand side of the page, 2nd line under where it says Mishnah in the Rashi, pasul. The ein ritzona shializu alav sham the kapedehi. That Rashi explains that the husband doesn't want the people who are in that place, meaning in any other place, to sort of celebrate his downfall of his marriage. And so as a result, that is why they say that he says that you have to divorce me only in a particular place. So according to Rashi, the husband is trying to avoid his own embarrassment. But according to Tosas Harid, which is on Samach Hayam Bet, about 7 or 8 lines up, maybe 10 lines up in the narrow lines of the Tosas Harid, which is in the right-hand margin of my Gemara. Perish Dahavi Kapeda, he says that it's why is he being makbid? Kihu chafetz livzosa. He wants to embarrass his wife, but otomakom in that particular location. The cave and shashina. And now, if the messenger were to change the location and change his intention, shina daito, but shlichuso. Since he's changing the intention of the principal, the agent doesn't have the ability to do that. So that's a debate between Rashi and Tosas Rid. Who is the husband trying to either save from embarrassment or actually embarrass? But in any event, the point is that if the location isn't followed, it's not a valid divorce. If, however, the husband says, Harei hi b'makom ploni, if he just tells the agent, listen, she's in this particular place, unisano la b'makom acher kasher, then it doesn't make a difference where the agent gives it to her, it's still going to be kosher, because there, the second situation, he's not giving him instructions, he's giving him advice as to where to find the wife. How about in the other direction? If she says, please accept the get only in this particular place, so but now she accepts it in a different place, pasul, it's not valid. But Rabbi Elazar says, actually, no, it is a kosher get, and Rashi notes, Taima Mefarsh b'Gemara. We're going to explain Rabbi Elazar's reasoning in the Gemara. So Haveli Gittin b'makom ploni, and of course, if she says, bring me my get from such a place, heviu la b'makom acher kasher. Doesn't make a difference where you bring it to her from, as long as you bring it to her from her husband, that is, it's going to be kosher. So the Gemara asks the question that I just said we're going to answer. So Rabbi Elazar, my shna shreisha Delo Palik, Maishna Sefer de Palik. Why is he differentiating between the husband, where we say that it is invalid if it's done in a different place, and the wife, where he says that it is valid if it's done in a different place? Well, Ihu de Medaita Megarish Kapib. When it's the husband is the one who decides whether to divorce. As a reminder, in rabbinic times, in the time of the Talmud, a wife did not have the ability to reject a divorce. Now we allow a wife to reject the divorce. She has to accept the divorce. And so ihi, but when it comes to the wife, the bal karka miskareshes maramakom halo. So because she is only, she does not have a voluntary aspect of this, she has the ability. She's really just going to tell the agent where to go. She's never actually giving detailed instructions. So that's the opinion of Rebbe Elazar. Okay, next Mishnah. So the next Mishnah deals with when the wife of a Kohen, who's not the daughter of a Kohen, may no longer eat truma because the divorce has taken effect or is about to take effect. So Havali Giti, if the wife of a Kohen says, bring me my get, Ochelas, so again, remember, bring me my get means that she doesn't want the get to be effective until it gets to her hand. So Ochelas betruma achi yagia get liyada. She can continue to eat truma until the get gets to her hand. But if she says hiskaba ligiti, if she says except for my get, asura le'achol betruma miyad, she is immediately no longer able to eat truma. And the Meiri explains that when we say immediately, we mean as soon as the agent leaves her presence, because she may think that her husband's in one place, but her husband could be just outside of sight. So it is technically possible that she could be divorced literally the second that the agent leaves. So as a result, that's why she needs to stop eating immediately. If she says hiskaba ligiti b'makom ploni, if she says that you should accept my get in a particular place, well then ochelas betruma ad sheyagia get lo tomakom. So then she can continue to eat truma until she learns that the get has arrived in that particular place. Rabbi Eliezer oser miyad, but Rabbi Eliezer says no, it's prohibited immediately. So we're going to explain all of this. Oh, well, let's take a look. Rashi explains. Rashi is 4 lines up in the narrow lines of Rashi Samachay Amud Aleph. Asr miyad, mishaperish, as soon as the agent separates from him, Rabbi Eliezer would say that it's prohibited. Mishaperish matzla, as soon as the agent separates from her. Rabbi Eliezer l'tamei, and Rabbi Eliezer follows his reasoning, because what does he say? According to him, even if the wife says to accept the get in a particular place, it does not mean that the get has to get to that place. It could mean even that the get is anywhere else and she will be divorced immediately. To mara makom hilo, as we said in the Gemara just a few seconds ago, she is just showing where the agent should go. Umishas kabbalah igarsha. And as soon as he accepts it, she is divorced. As soon as he walks out the door, Asura, she's prohibited to eat truma because Shema Matz'o Chutz La'ir V'Kiblu Himena, because maybe the agent will find her right away, and it will be, and therefore will be divorced right away. Okay, so but now we're going to ask an apparent contradiction between these two parts of this. Is actually one, even though we had a Gemara between the Mishnahs, this is really one long Mishnah, and we're going to point out that there seems to be an internal contradiction because the Gittin miyahavi. What did we say? We said that if the wife says, in this most recent Mishnah, we said if the wife says, "Except for me, a get in a particular place," the get does not take effect. She can eat truma until the get gets to that place. But what's the implication? The implication is that even if the get gets to that place through the hand of her agent, so her agent actually received the get somewhere else, and yet we're going to say that when the get gets to the place that she said, it will be a valid get. But that disagrees but one second. For Ha'amart Reisha, in the earlier Mishnah, in the previous Mishnah, Lo Havigita, we said that according to the Tanna Kama, that if the agent receives the get not in the place that she specifies, then it's not a valid get. So why in the end is it a valid get, and in the beginning it's not a valid get? So Lo Tzricha de Amra Le Hiskabali Gita b'Masa Machasya v'Zimnin de Mashkachas Le the Bavel. So we're actually talking about not where the woman just says, "Accept my get" in a particular place, but she actually said the following: "Accept a get for me in Masa Mechasya," but my husband is sometimes in Bavel, so you may find him there, and so as a result, what he's saying, V'hachi Kamralei, and this is what she's saying to the agent, Mishkal, when it comes to taking and getting the get, Kol Heka de Mishkachas Le Shakle Mine, wherever you find my husband, take it from him. However, Gita Lo Havi, it shouldn't become a get Adimatis Lamasa Machsha, until you actually get to the specific place, until Masa Machsha. Now, you might be wondering, well, 1 second. That sounds very similar to the problem that we had where if the agent doesn't have the ability to go back to the husband, we say it's not a valid get. Moreover, it also sounds like a situation where something goes into a field that the wife doesn't own, and now she takes possession of the field. And so Tosfos raises these issues and says, 1 second, why is the get valid at all? The agent did not receive the get directly from the husband in that particular place. So it's like the husband telling the wife to pick the get off the ground. It didn't go directly from the husband to the wife. And if you say that the husband's appointing this same agent to be his agent for delivery to the specific place, then we have a problem of the agent not having a chance to tell the husband that he completed his agency before he becomes the agent for the wife. So Tosfos offers two answers. Answer number one is maybe we treat this like the husband appointed the agent, and the agent, when he gets to Masa Machasya, he'll just give the get to a third party, but then become the wife's agent and then receive it on behalf of the wife. Or alternatively, this is a case similar to a case where the husband says that the get is not valid until 30 days and will allow the agent to and the agent is therefore really just a long-term agent for acceptance. He's just doing acceptance over several days, and that's fine too. The Rashba says, 1 second, I don't even think this is a question what you're asking, because there's no issue with the agent being the wife's agent to deliver to a specific place and then for the wife's agent to act as acceptance in that place. The agent is only working for the wife and there's no problem whatsoever. And so as a result, even though there is echoes of these other cases, we don't actually have a problem here. Okay, so now the Gemara is going to ask, why do we even need to say Rebbe Elazar's position? Isn't it obvious? Rebbe Elazar oser miyad. Rebbe Elazar says the wife is prohibited from eating truma immediately. Doesn't that, so pshita, doesn't that follow from Daha Mara Makam Hilo? She is only telling him, the agent, the location. And that's what we saw in the prior Mishnah, right? It doesn't make a difference where the agent receives it. The woman is divorced immediately. So lo sricha, we actually do need to tell us this rule because of the following case. The Amrale Zillah Mizrach, the Asim Mizrach. If the woman tells the agent, listen, go east because my husband is in the east, the Ka'azul Amar, and then she sees that which way does the agent go? The agent goes to the west. So I might have thought that the agent went in the wrong direction. And as a result, maybe the wife should have at least a little bit of time before the agent goes in the right direction that she can continue to eat truma. So ma'odetema, but ma'arav halese. I will just assume that the husband is not in the west. And so as a result, she can continue to eat truma. So kamash malan, what?
You know what that could be?
What could be? Tell me it could. It could be that they went to the wrong location, right? It could be that the husband is actually in the west. And that's exactly what the Gemara says. Kamash Malan, Doma Bahadi Dekazel. Yeah, it could be north, south, or east also. But the point is that we don't know, even though she says she thinks that the husband is in a particular place, and she may even know that the husband's in that place, but you know what? We don't know anything for sure. And so as a result, maybe as the agent was going out of town, Migas Gaius Bay, the husband met him and Vayav Legita and gave him the get. So even if she's going in the wrong direction, even if the agent is going in the wrong direction, we have to assume that there's a problem immediately. All right, so ha'omer l'shlucho. So now one tells the agent arev li b'tamarim. So now we're going to apply. We had this. What did we take away from what we've done so far? We've taken away some aspect of specificity. That if I'm being specific, the rabbis say, well, that specificity matters. And Rebbe Lazar says, no, it doesn't matter. Sometimes it doesn't matter. And so what about the following case? Ha'omer l'shlucho, if you tell an agent, arev li b'tamarim, go make an eruv for me. We're talking about an eruv that allows you to go outside of 2,000 amos. This is an eruv tchumim, and so as a result, you put the food at the edge of your Tchum Shabbos, and then you can treat that as your home base, and you can walk 2,000 amos in any direction from that location, as opposed to from where your actual home is. So if somebody tells somebody to make an eruv with dates, the eruv lo b'grogros, and the person makes the dates makes the eruv with dried figs, the grogros, the eruv lo b'tamarim, or vice versa. He asked for dried figs and to make some an eruv with dates. So we have two brises. Tani chada eruv eruv, the Tanya idach ein eruv eruv. We've got conflicting brises. One says it's a valid eruv, one says it's not a valid eruv. So I'm a rabbah. So how do we deal with this conflict? So there's an easy way to deal with it, and that's what Rabbah offers. Lo kasha harabanan harabilazar. The rabbis say that it's not valid because they say that when you're being specific, even a wife is being specific. And so here you're being specific. And Rebbe Lazar is the one who says, no, you're not being specific. You don't have to be specific. The wife doesn't have to be specific. And the person doesn't really intend to be specific. He just is wanting an eruv to be made, and he's giving advice. So that's harabanan to amri kapeda. It's the rabbis who say that she's specific, and the person is being specific here as well. Rabbi Lazar to amar mara makom hulo. He's just giving advice. So Rav Yosef disagrees with Rabbah and says no. Hava harabanan. Really, both brises could be the rabbis. And so, what's the difference between the two? Why is one not a valid eruv and one is a valid eruv? Kan b'shelo, kan b'shel chavero. Well, when you tell somebody to use your own produce, well, you're just telling them, look, at the end of the day, I don't really care which produce. It all belongs to me. So whatever you use, whether you use the dried figs or you use the dates, it's totally fine. But when I tell you to use something that doesn't belong to me, then I'm being specific. And Rashi goes through this and explains it. Then you're being specific because then you want, what do you want? You don't want to use the thing that you don't have permission to use. Your friend only gave you permission to use the dates. They didn't give you permission to use the dried figs, the pressed figs. So Amarle Abaye, well, 1 second. What? Or yeah, you could use grapes instead also. So so now Abaye asks Rav Yosef, okay, you've resolved this apparent contradiction between those two prices, but we have another set of two prices. Vela Hadatanya, Haomer Shluchel Arev le b'migdal, ve'erev lo b'shovach, b'shovach ve'erev lo b'migdal. The Tanya Chada Eruva Eruv, the Tanya Idach Ein Eruva Eruv. We have a similar conflicting set of brises. If I were to tell you to make an Eruv for me in my tower, and you made an Eruv for me instead in the dovecote, well, or vice versa. If I tell you to make the Eruv for me in the dovecote, and you make the Eruv for me in the tower, so we have the same, and there, nobody's going to say that when it comes to the location, I care whether the location belongs to me or to somebody else, because it's a very small thing that we're doing and temporary. Nobody's going to be makbid on that issue. So, why would we care about whether or not we're using, our tower or our friend's tower? So, hasam nami ika peri de migdal u peri de shova. No, when we say that we want you to use the tower or the dovecote, we're talking about the fruit that is there. And so as a result, if you use the fruit in the wrong location, then it's exactly the same case. So Rav Yosef has effectively tied the two sets of brises exactly the same. And so as a result, he's offered an explanation that allows both brises, all four brises now, to be according to the rabbis. Okay, so now we're at the next Mishnah, and our next Mishnah details language that implies a request to write and deliver a get. So, Ha'omer kisvu get utnu ishti. If I say to somebody, write a get and give it to my wife, garshuha, divorce her, kisvu igeret utnula, write a letter and give it to her. Hare elu yichtavu v'yitnu. All of these cases are cases where I'm really telling the person to write a get and to give the get. Okay, patruha, if I tell you to release her, parnasuha, provide sustenance for her, provide money for her, asula kanimus, do what's customary for her, asula karoi, do what's fitting for her, lo amar klum. I haven't said anything because those statements don't have to be about divorce. So the Gemara now explains and gives us some additional cases. So tanu rabbanan shilchuha, send her away, shivkuha, abandon her, tarchuha, banish her, hare elu yichtavu v'yitnu. Again, these are all languages of divorce. And now again, we use the same back end of our Mishnah to say the languages that don't work. Petrua, parnasua, asula kinumus, asula karoi, lo amar klum. Just as in the Mishnah, those other cases don't actually cause her to be divorced. So Tanya, Rabbi Nassan Omer, Patruha Dvarav Kayamin. Rabbi Nassan said that in fact Patruha, even though we said in the Mishnah that that's nothing, actually that one does create a divorce. However, Pitruha Lo Amar Klum. If you say Pitruha, then it does not say anything. And the note here introduces the fact that Patruha is Aramaic and Pitrua is Hebrew, and Pitrua means that you should release her, and Patrua, because of its Aramaic usage and because it's considered to be the location where it's used, so the customary usage is for divorce. So Amarava, Rabbi Nassan de Bavlahu. Rabbi Nassan was from Bavel, so that's why Vidayik ben Pitrua le Patrua. So as a result, he differentiated between Aramaic and Hebrew. But in Israel, Batana Didan, our Tana, the Bar Eretz Yisrael, who lo Dayak, the one who is from Israel, he didn't make that distinction. He just used a single language. Both Patrua and Pitrua would have the exact same meaning in Israel. So Ibailahu, they asked a question. This is a 6-part question, I believe, and we're going to see that in fact we're not going to answer any more than one part of it. But let's take a look. Ibailu, they asked, Hotziyuhu mahu. When it comes to take her out, what's the law? Izvua mahu. If it abandon her, what's the law? Hitirua mahu. Permit her, what's the law? Hinichua mahu. What's the law if you say leave her? Ho'ilula mahu. If you say help her, what is the law? Asula kedas mahu. Or you do for her like the law. What's the rule? So on all of these cases, shot miha chada, we can only resolve one of them. Titania, because we have a brisa that actually starts with asula kedas, which begins with do for her as the law, like the law. So then what's the story? Well, that's equal to asula kinimus. It's just like do for her as is customary, and asula karoi, and do for her as is fitting. And as we saw in our Mishnah and in an earlier brisa, lo amar klum. In those situations, he has not said anything. So, all right. So our next Mishnah is going to address people in risky situations who ask for a get to be written, but don't say anything about delivery. And so what's the story? Do we say that because they're in a risky situation, we should assume that they also mean to deliver it or not? So for the answer to that, stay tuned for tomorrow's daf. And again, tomorrow will be Zoom only. And please note that please be a little patient. I will use the WhatsApp list to let people know if I'm going to be late, but there is a chance that I will be a few minutes late, God willing, tomorrow. But it's a great daf. It's certainly worth it, and we'll look forward to seeing those who come in person next week. I'll be back next week. Dove is back. I believe that he's back to doing it on Zoom, but I saw him at davening this morning, so he may be interested in doing it in person. So keep an eye on your WhatsApp to see how he is planning to run the daf on Monday and Tuesday next week. And next Thursday is Tisha B'Av. Yes. Oh, that's a very important point. So obviously we won't be learning on Tisha B'Av morning. So we may, but we're not gonna have this gathering on Monday because exactly. So on Thursday, either we will learn at night, and we have to figure out a time after everybody's had a chance to eat. So maybe sometime like 10 o'clock. I know that's kind of late. Or maybe we'll try to speed things up over the course of the week, so that way we can cover all the ground. I'll be back on Wednesday. I'll be back on for Shabbos, but we're going to be learning in this room again Wednesday morning at 7:45. All right, looking forward to seeing people, God willing, on Zoom tomorrow, and I wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you very much.